Now it's time for us to look at what the big stories making headlines today in our newspapers. Join us this morning for in-depth analysis is Uade Ahimie, head of strategy and public affairs at Nairametrics. Good to have you, Uade. Thank you very much.
It's great to be here again this morning, and I enjoy being alongside my great friends.
Great minds, yes. So we appreciate you too.
Great to have you. I just wanted to ask before we get into the newspaper review, do you by any chance happen to plan to defect to the APC as well?
The transfer season has opened.
Political transfer window.
Well, I don't know. I didn't say anything, but I know that there is a transfer window that is opened. Yeah. We've seen the first tranche of players who are moving. So they are moving from a P to an A. So maybe they are going to become PAs. But we expect more and more transfers to come in the months to come, especially for those, in my own opinion, who have to run for an election and they have nothing to lose.
Any key players
they have something to lose, and then the ones who have nothing to lose.
Who are the Ronaldos and the
But there's some strikers that they are mentioning. Some strikers are making the headlines. For instance, they said a striker who plays for Rivers United might be moving.
That's very possible.
There's one for Aqua United.
You know, he had an injury.
Yes.
I guess he's recuperating well. So the expectations could be that during this transfer window, there will be enough funds to be able to move him from Rivers United to.
Who are the players to look out for this season?
We've already seen the ones that have moved. I don't know about some players who are retiring.
Okay.
So you now have to start to look at who would take those places. Okay. So in places like Ibadan United, those kind of places where you know that. So those are places you really need to look out for. But at the end of the day, I see them setting up a new Super League.
Okay.
Which will be mostly top class players who will. I'm sure. That's the breakaway league that we have been.
They've been talking about it for the longest. And even though many people have said, they're not.
Well, when we started talking about it in 2024, remember, people were saying no, it's not possible. But now we can see that there's so much funding in the market. So, and people, of course, you go where your bread and butter will be. Really be butter.
In this political football speak that we've had so far, one thing we can all agree with is just like with politics and football, anything can happen.
Anything can happen. I mean, last minute we've seen players.
Yes, and so let's be careful for the late part of the transfer window.
Yes.
These are the early parts. These are certain.
Yes.
So Warriors have moved. You heard that the injured Rivers United player once maybe he gets healthy, he might move if the fee makes sense.
Even Aqua United striker is already saying that he likes what is happening.
So you see, and he wants to. Are you sure he's a striker or he's a central defender?
And even the FCT United, we're not even quite sure how that.
No. The FCT United is probably going to move to become player coach.
Yeah, as a player coach.
As a player coach.
It's much more like, it reminds us of the days of Zidane.
Yeah, exactly, where he's playing and they're still coaching while they're on the field. So, and it's very, very important to be in that kind of role.
I think my final question in this area is when we get to the Super League, if it eventually happens, do we see a situation where, a repeat of what happens to Arsenal will happen to certain parties like the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, for example?
Well, also, will he be able to muster the energy to be in the Super League? That's the question he should be asking himself. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, let's get
we have actually started the analysis.
Yes. Because if they just tuned in, being that I think what we're talking about is in the Punch. The league is in the Punch.
Exactly, the big.
So let's take a look at the Punch newspaper headline. Yes, opposition weakens as more PDP governors eye APC. You wonder what's in APC, what are they going there for? And killings, Tinubu demands fresh security blueprint from intelligence chiefs. Federal government grants tax waivers to Dangote, Mikano, 103 others. U.S. indicts Nigerian for $690,000 scam for citizenship claim. And Lagos local government chairman aspirants withdraws for Obasanjo. Well, I didn't know Obasanjo.
So you can see even in the junior leagues.
Even in the junior league, a lot is happening there.
And a lot is going to happen.
And INEC moves to legalize voting without PVC.
No,
I
that's
really
the
don't want
biggest
to, like they say, the devil is in the detail. I don't want to believe
that.
what I'm seeing.
What do you mean?
Well, we are forming a super league, so I don't understand how you want the crowds to be able to get enough crowds.
So if you're not voting with PVC, what are you voting with? Or what?
So you have there are a number of things that you can use. You can use your BVN. You can use your. First and foremost, I think the most important thing is the NIN. With the census coming,
That's if they do it.
well, so I think that's the thinking, because with the census coming, you can kill two birds with one stone, like they say. You can count the Nigerians, and then you can get. We have over 100 million Nigerians now on the NIN, so you can get much more onto the NIN register and have NIN registration numbers. And if you do that, truly, then do you really need a voters register, or you have a compilation of the NIN, and you see, because the NIN will provide you whether someone who has just turned 18 before the elections, and all those things will be there. So if you have
data,
that, so if you have that critical data, and then someone walks in, it becomes your voters data. So once I can,
how do we verify NIN on election day? Are we going to need another machine?
You don't need that. How do you verify NIN? How do you verify BVN?
I mean,
I go there and then I tell you my number, and then you bring it up, and then it shows my face.
Identity. It's like your security number.
That's what
guys,
everybody uses.
please just hold your thoughts.
So like
We
I
have
said,
to-
you can't be setting up a super league and then you don't have enough fans to come and watch it. What's the essence of spending so much money on players, on top quality players, and then you don't have the fans that are going to help you make that noise?
So, gentlemen and ladies, just hold your thoughts there. We have to go for a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we'll continue our analysis of the front pages. Do stay with us. You're welcome back to Breakfast Central. This is, we're reviewing the newspapers. Remember, you could call in. We'd like to keep things interactive here. Call in and share your thoughts on any one of the big stories we're reviewing. Now, let's take a look at the Nigerian Tribune. Okay, I think Olive should take this because it's a story that is very personal to her. She's a Delta, and we're talking about her state.
We're talking about Warri United.
Yes, Warri.
Why rejoined APC? Delta Governor Okowa, others say. The explain how Ibadan PDP governors meeting aided exit. Senator Kawu dumps NNPP for APC in Kano. Edo Labour Party Senator Imaswen set to defect to APC. That's another conversation. People are saying that if he's defecting to the APC, then he should give up his position in Senate and Ethics and Privileges Committee, as that should come from an opposition member. 6th-term Osho federal lawmaker quits PDP. Another 2 killed, over 20 farms destroyed by bandits in Plateau. 2027. Why we will be back, Tinubu. Why we will back Tinubu, CPC bloc says. Flight operations disrupted as NIMET workers down tools. That's another conversation to be had. EPI suspends flight. Earned allowances. Federal government releases 50 billion naira to ASU and other unions. Ahead of burial, thousands queued to catch a glimpse of Pope Francis's body. NLC tackles power minister on claims of adequate electricity supply to 150 million Nigerians. Too many juicy stories here.
Too many.
PENCOM recovers 1.58 billion naira from defaulting employers' pension. Let's start with NLC tackling power minister on claims of adequate electricity supply to 150 million Nigerians. How is the electricity supply in your area? And you don't.
I haven't had light in 2 days.
Wow.
But.
Okay.
But. You see, when everybody, I'm saying this because we need to really understand how the power sector works. You understand? So all these claims of 150 million Nigerians. So what he's telling me is that there's enough power in rural Nigeria Nigeria or rural areas. I don't think that's true, because we are just not generating enough power and transmitting enough power. So it's not like Nigeria, based on estimates, should be, if you need to have stable power between 12 to 18 hours, should be putting out between 10 and 15,000 megawatts of electricity every day into the grid, through the grid. I mean, there are a number of off-grids that people are working on now, but it's still just not enough. So when my birthday mate, the Minister of Power, tells me that 150 million Nigerians are getting adequate power. Adequate power for anybody should be a minimum of 8 hours, not 12 hours in one day and then the next 3 days there's no light.
In fact, one of my...
You're being generous with the 8 hours too.
No, no. That's why I said adequate power should be at least 8 hours. And why I said 8 hours is between the hours of 9 o'clock in the morning and 6 p.m. so that people who go to work, who trade, by that time, they've done enough, at least they've done some level of business to create economic growth.
Viability.
But when you don't get up to 8 hours, then it just doesn't make sense. This is something, I'm not saying this out of, I did work in the power sector for a bit, and I did understand a number of things that could happen, and I saw them, and I've seen them happen, and they are still happening. We talked about Band A, and everybody being on Band A, and I continue to insist. Private consumers, individual consumers cannot pay for electricity anywhere in the world. Their monies come in as contribution effects to the electricity system. It's the likes of the New Central, the industries, those who use heavy-duty equipment. And you don't charge them out of this world, because they also need to run a business. But they contribute 65 to 75% of the monies that come in to the electricity business.
And that's why I like what was written in the Punch. The Punch just button, it said federal government grants tax waivers to Dangote, Mikano, 103 others. And I think that's the way to go, apparently, with what you've highlighted. There are a few companies or organizations you might want to look into who are economic drivers on their own. They help to boost your GDP. So you might want to... Yeah, they employ a lot of persons. They ensure that the country keeps running its course, whether you like it or not. And I agree with you with that one, 100%. But I want to go back to the papers as well. There's a story I want us to look at. It's got to do with, we've talked about the NLC tackling. What did you make of this story, this particular one, concerning NIMET?
Yes, that's the story I really wanted him to speak about.
Yeah,
so on the front page still of Nigerian Tribune,
yes, NIMET.
Flight operations disrupted as NIMET workers down tools, airpiece has suspended their flight. I was looking into the story as to why the NIMET workers are
Should they even be allowed to strike? I mean, these are very critical organizations.
They said they are not earning a lot of money. They say that their welfare
is like Nigerian police and army saying they're going on strike.
Haven't they tried it before?
A few elements, and we know what the result is. But this is critical national infrastructure, your airspace.
And you made mention of the military, and this is where there is always a disconnect for me in Nigeria. The military across the world perform some critical roles aside from, and when they say defending the sovereignty of the country, it goes beyond the tanks and the guns. Strategic things like this, where people like this go on strike, that's where they come in. They start to manage those kind of things in just a short time. Well, of course, the military political party is no longer looking at a number of those things. Because with this, are you with me, it has security implications.
Talk about NIMET, right? Going on strike.
That's security implications. If there's a sudden attack, you just can't fly because you don't have the details of what the weather is like and which kind of planes can you fly.
So this
those things.
The Air Force will rightly fit into.
Oh yeah, they will, and I'm sure they do for their own of course they do, and they work with all. Yeah. They do that.
Sure.
And that's one of the reasons why when when they had an issue with the Keja Electric, one of the things I said is that the government needs to sit down, are you with me, with the Defense Ministry, the Ministry of Finance, and the electricity companies, because you can't be charging, what's it called, strategic military installations that provide security, band A. And of course, there's a budget. If my budget is 3 naira and then all of a sudden it moves 3 times, and then you say I'm not paying, where do I want to pay it from? But coming back to that, and these are strategic things in terms of security that we need to look at. So let me give an example. NIMET is not working. They say, oh, you don't know what the weather is like, and then someone carries a plane and then attacks Nigeria. What happens? We don't see these linkages, but that's a huge part of what the military do. When you fight wars, you don't bring civil engineers from outside to come and build roads and build bridges. It's done by the military civil engineering corps, and these are things we need to go back to and then ensure, even in terms of communication technology.
Yeah.
They're all security issues, and we've just neglected them, and that's why we are, in my own opinion, we're in where we are today. And they say, oh, MTN, you can't get the records of everybody who gets a SIM card. How is that possible? It's a security issue. And what's the military security architecture doing about that? Nobody's saying that. I just say, okay, MTN shuts down the, what's it called? No.
It's a problem.
It is a major problem.
Because of want of time, let's look at Daily Trust. There's a big story there, the front page of the Daily Trust there. 2027, allow younger people to run. Baba Ahmed tells Tinubu. Daily Trust front page there, insecurity, enough is enough. President tells security chiefs. Patients stranded as workers strike, cripples FCT PHCs. Let's take that one at the front there. Allow younger people to run, you know.
Allow competent people to run.
That statement, is it made from a point of, reality?
I don't understand what he means by allow younger people to run. If younger people are not interested in politics, I don't know how they want to run.
And INEC is not saying they shouldn't run.
Nobody has said anybody shouldn't run. But, just before I came in, I was having a conversation with a number of your team, and I was telling them, I've lived a good life in Nigeria. I'm a Nigerian. I always tell you that everything I am is Nigeria. Exactly. School, education, work is Nigeria. And I'm proud. And that's why I would serve in Nigeria and live in Nigeria all my life. But for you to reclaim Nigeria, then you must be prepared to do politics, to do electioneering. Electioneering, well, see, since the election finished in 2023, you and I, we've all had discussions around it. The president has been planning for 2027. It's beginning to come out now, because from next year, the window
opens.
But it's already clear that his strategy is long gone. We're setting up a new Super League. How do you do that when you allow young people to... All these people that you're talking about started in their 20s. In this Nigeria. But you see 20-year-olds and they're complaining. Now. Even if it's TikTok you're using.
No, I mean they're not...
Nobody. And we're talking about the NIN now.
TikTok. They're
not
talking
about the
politics.
Politics is not every 4 years. Politics is every day. The same way with economics. So what you need to do is that you need to... It's already late, but you need to now start talking and going out and getting your so-called PVC. Now that they say you can vote without a PVC
again now.
Exactly. Then those of you, your friends who don't have NIN, who don't have bank accounts or BVN, something that you can use to identify yourself, driver's license, go out and get them, because once you do that, you start to get your NIN together, which I think is what is going to be used in this case. And believe me, politicians will get enough people registered. And I'm not saying dual registration now. New people registered on the NIN.
Are you satisfied with what's your assessment of young, I know we don't have the numbers, but so far so good. Your assessment of young appointees and young Nigerians that have sort elected
When you are
office
not
in the
there,
last
how do
4
you
years?
get appointed?
No, are you happy with the quality of representation?
Representation is what you have.
No, but there are quite a number of young people.
Are you doubting their quality? Go look at their CVs.
No, I'm asking you.
I don't know a number of them, but I'm asking, are you doubting their CVs? And that's it. So representation is what is available. If there are 100 people in a party and there are only 5 young people, of course the representation will come from that 5. But if there are 1,000 people in the party and there are 990 young people, then you will see the diverseness in the representation, the diversity in the representation. I leave it at that.
All right. Let's head to Benu State now, where we do have our reporter who's on ground. Sergey Ibrahim is there. Yesterday, he did bring us a report on the insecurity and, most importantly, what the government is doing there. Sergey, thank you so much for joining us once again. The president arrived just a few hours, I'd say 48 hours now. He held a meeting with security chiefs yesterday, about a few hours too. Can you tell us any update concerning what's happening, concerning the insecurity in Benue State?
Good morning, Joe. Good morning to everyone in the studio. While the government is making its own efforts to ensure that as much as possible the crisis is reduced, and of course the attacks and security breaches in some of these villages are abated as much as possible, we were actually, in these communities to hear from the people and to get a proper understanding much more of what the situation is. So we spent the day yesterday, Wednesday, in a village called Mbachon. It is located in Jatuaka district. Jatuaka is in Kwande local government area here in Benue State, and it is one among several local governments that makes up the Benue Northeast Senatorial District. And if you've been following developments, in Benue State, you would understand that most of these attacks have been going on in the Benue Northeast Senatorial District that has local governments, like Ukum that was attacked recently, Logo that was attacked recently. We heard what's going on in Zakidam. Katina Ala, of course, is also not excluded from this. All of these local governments, are clustered in one senatorial district, giving you sort of an understanding that this crisis has been on for long. Now, we got to Jatuaka and also visited the communities there to get sort of an assessment of the situation, in the villages. And I must tell you, Joe, it's a sad one. It's a sad one because a lot of members of these communities have still, not returned to the community, even though the community was attacked on the 27th of March, the last time, according to, news that's available on public platforms. But they've not been able to return, reasons being that they are scared that these bandits would return, these alleged herdsmen would return and also continue to carry out, these attacks. We spoke with the district head. He gave us sort of a comprehensive, information of the situation that's there. Some of the farmers have left these communities because it is no longer safe for them to go to their farms. And if you understand the situation, Benue, with an appellation being the food basket of the nation, it sort of tells you what the situation is, especially considering that these communities are agrarian communities. So if you have a lot of farmers not going to the farm because of insecurity, it tells you the impact that this, can have on food production in the state and, of course, in the country in general. So these are some of the nuances that we got from there, while, of course, the governor and the government continues to do its best to ensure that the situation is checkmated.
Talking about the government and the governor, you moved around several communities in Benue State. What's the security presence like? And is there any official communication from the government on steps they're taking?
We intend to speak with the Executive Secretary of the State Emergency Management Agency to get responses on government actions. Of course, we've been in communication with some of the officials. So far, it's been responses in terms of taking relief items and relief materials to some of these locations, that were affected. Also assurances and deployment of more security in these areas, of course, that were attacked just recently. However, it might interest you to know that although these attacks happened recently, as recent as 5 days ago, there are some communities that continue to have or to witness some of these attacks continually from 5 days ago up until this point that's not been reported. And Jatuaka district is one of those communities because the locals informed us categorically stating that they were attacked as early as 2 days ago. So this sort of gives you, what the situation is like. And for security deployments in these areas, they have complained that although they can see the efforts of the police, of men of the Nigerian Army, and of course of the civil defense, but Benu Northeast is a large senatorial district, and because of that, there is a vast land that is unoccupied, which gives the non-state actors an opportunity to roam the streets or the environments freely. And also because of the fact that the security deployment is not enough to comb these areas effectively, it makes it even more difficult for these non-state actors and these criminal elements to be flushed out as effectively as the government would want to do. Hence the reason why the governor is trying the much he can to get more attention on the state and to ensure that these communities know relative peace, and so farmers, because they are mostly agrarian communities, can go to farm and also continue with their livelihoods.
Trying to shine more light on the situation at hand, and again our thoughts and our hearts are with the people in Benue State. The governor has rejected the idea that this fight is beyond him. He said that since he took office, the local government's order attack have reduced from 17 to 6. Do the people in Benue State share same sentiment and belief in the ability of the current government of Benue State to be able to conquer the challenges with insecurity that the state is currently facing?
Every time I speak with them, they recognize the effort of the current governor, but also you'd understand that the issues on ground precedes this administration. You recall that the previous administration, that of former Governor Samuel Otom, also had these pockets of attacks. At some point, Benue became a hot zone, if you would allow me to use that word, of these attacks. So because of that, the people are no strangers to these attacks, but they feel that it is better, in addition to the governor or the state government's efforts, that they see some effort from the federal government to show that they are as vested and as committed into ensuring that peace returns to this community as much as possible. They feel that the issues are not being amplified enough. They feel that the insurgency currently in the northeast and that's going on here can be compared in some light because of the urgency, of the security that they need in these areas. So they are saying the governor is doing his best, but they also understand that even though the governor is the chief security officer of the state, he does not have direct command, of the armed forces. Hence, there's a limited ability to what he can do, to address these issues. Hence, the reason why they are saying the federal government needs to show some commitment, to ensure that their plights are addressed.
Thank you, Ibrahim, for breaking it down for us and to our viewers. We look forward to, like I always say, hear from you again, and keep up the good work. Thanks for your time.
Well, stay safe.
Absolutely.
And eat pounded yam.
Yeah.
No, it's food basket. It's a food basket.
And everybody turns to me.
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean,
of
no,
course,
what's your reaction to that? I mean, insecurity, I know you've not touched on that in front pages, but what's your take on that?
Insecurity seems to have become the norm in Nigeria. I remember, I think a few weeks ago, we were talking about insecurity and we laughed over it. But remember what I said is because we are not reporting them, and your correspondent, made mention to that. At some communities said they were attacked as 2 days ago. Because we are not reporting them, everybody makes it seem like, oh, the war is over. No, the war is not over. The war is just grinding more and more. And let's also remember that some of the things might start to escalate. Why? Because of the political scenario that is coming to be. And the government needs to do a number of things. So the first thing for me, in my own opinion, is create real economic opportunities. Are you with me? One of the things I've always said in building a country or a nation and creating economic activities is where both federal and governments understand that infrastructure development is something that brings a lot of people to work, especially offhand, and people. But we don't see it. If infrastructure development or building a 2-kilometer road will take 2 years, or building a 2-kilometer bridge takes 2 years, then you can't create the needed economic value that is required. It can't happen. I grew up in a country where projects were done in 12, 18 months. All of a sudden, projects are
10 years.
As 10 years. What are you talking about? The expansion of the Lekki-Ekpe Express Route,
Wow, that
one
was
lane, is over 20
that
years.
was long.
The Lagos Metro line,
They've still not completed the Lagos.
the Lagos
Ibadan Expressway
Central
till
line.
now.
Instead, we're saying, oh, there's a blue line, there's a red line, there's a green line. Just build the bloody thing. Pardon my French.
Meanwhile, I hope you've heard that there's a potential of the Jura Bridge being shut down on the 27th of April.
I have no problem.
And I asked myself,
and I have no problems with bridges being shut down. Eco Bridge has been on shutdown one way or the other for the last 6 months.
So-
When you
so the-
do that,
yeah.
make sure that people are able to go about their duties. And you work so that during the day, you can create the opportunities for people to go about and go where they need to go. It's only in Nigeria, particularly in Lagos where I work, that I see that infrastructure building or infrastructure maintenance or infrastructure repairs is a 9 to 5 work.
right. I mean, look at what happened.
I will end it at
Yeah,
that.
Independence Layout. I'm hoping Independence Bridge rather. I'm hoping that we don't have a repeat of what happened then, because it just felt like what they planned to do in weeks ended up happening in hours.
Yeah,
But
for as long as you remain, infrastructure development is like
Give the work to engineer
9 to
Dave
5.
Umahi. He makes things happen.
happen
very
quickly.
fast.
Okay, let's
Let's create a
let's
system.
quickly
Don't
connect
praise the
with
man alone.
Anambra. We have our correspondent Bernard Akede, who brings us update from the Anambra Town Hall series. Good morning, Bernard. How is the situation there in Anambra? What is the mood like? What should we expect today at the Anambra Town Hall series?
Guys, the breakfast table. Anambra is peaceful. We are in Oka, the state capital, and this is where we're going to be having our town hall series or town hall show, the Anambra series from.
Oh, like we have a bit of technical. We'll try to reconnect with Bernard so that he can give us an update as to what to expect in the Anambra Town Hall series. I think that Town Hall series have been very, very impactful, because what we do is not just say that we are a voice for the people. We actually go where the story is and feel the pulse of the people. We've done that in Kano. We've done several Town Hall series. We've done it in the United States, and I think that's important. So shout out to our team, the News Central team, for constantly giving the people a chance and a voice. I believe Bernard Akede is back. Bernard, please go on with your explanation as to what we should expect today at the Anambra Town Hall series.
Oh, okay. I was just, first of all, let me apologize for that. We lost public power supply, and then somebody has suggested that maybe at some point we should do a town hall series on power supply and generation in Nigeria. We'll think about that.
We support that.
We'll think about that. Anyways, we are here in Oka, the state capital of Anambra State, and basically we're talking insecurity this time. We've talked about different issues across the country, and like you rightly mentioned, even outside the country, and we tend to continue. But here we're talking about the state of insecurity in the southeastern part of the country, but we are focusing and basing our conversation here in Anambra State. In the past few days, we've been here, and prior to now, our colleague Chinwe Ugele has done several reports here and in other parts of the southeastern part of the country, and people have been speaking about how the insecurity or the state of insecurity in this region has been affecting them and their livelihoods. Maybe not them directly, but at least their loved ones. There are people who are indirectly affected, and that's what has brought us here today. The governor of this particular state has been doing well, according to the people, but of course the responses we've been getting are similar. People are saying that they wished that the tackling of insecurity that they are seeing had started much earlier, and that they wished that all the measures being put in place now would have been put in place earlier. Again, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, it's a continuous process. So they are hoping that the different infrastructure that have been put in place or that's been put in place now is something that would continue for a long time, and that the cases of insecurity as we have it right now will one day be a thing of the past. So basically that's the reason why we are here, and we are here to bring together people. Of course we can't bring everybody in Oka, but people, stakeholders, some government officials, if we can get them, security operatives who can speak to the matter and speak on the matter as we've not heard before. And that's actually why we're here.
Thank you very much, Bernard, for laying that foundation. I must say you look quite staunch and secured yourself in Anambra State. Now to my question, Bernard, what sort of resource persons and stakeholders are you expecting to speak at the town hall? And could you walk us through the program? What should we expect?
All right, so we're going to be expecting security operatives from the state. We hope that the public relations officer of the Nigerian police, that's Anambra State Command, will join us at some point. He is the mouthpiece of the security architecture here in the state, so we're hoping that he's going to join us. And when other security operatives, we hope that we can get a representative of the first citizen of the state. That's talking about Dr. Chukwuma Charles Soludo, who's executive governor. If he's not coming in person, we hope we would have a representative from him. We have different bodies and groups and associations who will be sending representatives to also join us. But most importantly, as you know, our town hall series is about the people and not the government. So we're going to have people fill all the seats that you can see around me here, or you'll get to see eventually. We're going to have victims or their relatives or both, who have in one way or the other, directly or indirectly, been affected by these cases of insecurity. We want to hear their testimonies. We want to hear the stories from their mouths and not just basically what we get to see or hear on social media. Also concerning resource persons, we are looking at scholars, we are looking at people from the academia, some professors, some lecturers, who can also come and speak to the matter as well, who can possibly even suggest certain things that could be put in place eventually, that the government can get to listen to and add to whatever framework that they are putting together or that they already have. And of course, you know, all on sundry, we also expect people, random people who we've invited to come and join us and fill some of these seats here. They would listen, they would speak and contribute. You never know where, you know, the silver bullet that will cure all of this will come from. It could come from the ordinary man on the street, it could come from the lecturer from the classroom, and it could just come from, you know, possibly even one of us giving our own suggestions. So, excuse me, these are some of the people that we are expecting today, and we definitely do hope that they'll join us eventually.
Well said, Bernard. I want to say thank you so much for joining us and giving us an update, especially as we count down to the start of this town hall meeting. One last thing, and if you could answer very quickly as we are nearing the end of Breakfast Central. We do understand that you'd be joining the ladies on Jasiri to also talk some more. But can you confirm to us that there would be representatives from the camp of the governor who would definitely try their best to be there at the town hall, because they would need to hear more from what the people have to say on a one-on-one basis?
Well, our fingers are crossed. We have sent, you know, we've sent invitations, and we do hope that there will be at least a representative or representatives from the camp of the governor and the sitting government here in Anambra State. And should they come, we'll be more than glad to host them and to hear from them as they speak, because we want the people to speak and we want the government to respond directly. So again, our fingers are crossed, and we expect that one or two persons will be coming to join us from the governor.
All right, thank you, Bernard Akere, for bringing us the update from the Anambra Town Hall series. And just to mention that our viewers who should stream live, those who are not in Nigeria, those in the diaspora, we're hoping that we can also take social media feedback and incorporate that into our program today. Thank you very much, Bernard. Do stay safe. All right, coming back to you, the final thoughts as we wrap up the show this morning.
Final thoughts. First, let me just mention what happened to Bernard. 150 million Nigerians now have adequate power.
Yeah.
Yes, the story we took on the front page of the newspaper.
And it also
the irony of
that,
it.
baby. Anyway, you can
Anyway, my final thoughts, a number of things, two things. One, insecurity. Insecurity would become better where we have more, through better economic indices in Nigeria. I'm not talking about the numbers of inflation and all. I'm talking about the people who are able to get work done even on a daily basis. That's the first one. And then the second one is, let's keep a close watch towards the 2027 elections. I just hope that Nigeria is not becoming a one-party state.
All right. Thank you so much.
With these few words of ours, we hope we've been able to convince and not confuse you that the Anambra Town Hall series is important for you. And you might say you're not from Anambra, how does it concern you? We're all connected, interconnected with the same challenges. And it's important that you're kept up to date with the progress that is being made and that your voice is heard. We're streaming live at 11 a.m. DSTV 422, Go TV 23, and via X as well as YouTube. So please be a part of the conversation. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Olive MOD.
And I'm Joe Hanson. Don't forget to also watch us Star Times 274, okay? And on Facebook, stream live on YouTube as well. We'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here. Buddy.
And I'm Benga Bora, and I'm just wondering if the Eze and Wines will be attending the town hall meeting. Yeah, good night. We'll know about it.
Remember they arrested them, and they told them...
No, they're stakeholders.
So are they still going to come there?
They're Eze and Wines.
They're Calabash and all that.
Work,
All in favor?
Eze and Wines.
You know, that was the question I was supposed to ask Bernard, if he spotted any of them around.
All in favor of Eze and Wines being there, say aye.
No.
Aye.
Okay. We'll see you
Eze and
tomorrow.
Wines lives matter.